Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth. I'm a marine biologist and science communicator, and it's my job to share about the weirdest and most wonderful sea creatures in the coolest ways. And I think there is no cooler way than what we are trying to do as part of this series, where I am creating a miniature theatre to make a marine themed science show that I'm entering into a competition that is going to be in the Royal Institution Lecture Theatre. Now, this is a very fancy room. It's where literal elements were announced and many cool things. If you want to hear a bit more about that and the conference I'm going to where this competition is running called Big, then you can check out the first video where I explain a bit more. And I made this and how we made this beautiful theatre. I can't get over it. But today's video, we're going to be doing something that is just incredible. I'm so excited. I can't believe I'm getting to do this. We are going to design the sets of theatre. I'm going to design the sets for this and make in here a beautiful underwater rock pooling world. I can't wait. I'm just so happy sitting next to my theatre. This is the best. I'm having so much fun. Okay, so first things first. I've never designed a set before, but I know I've had the vision and the idea of what I want at the start. But there's a couple of phases to this. So let me walk you through phase one, which we will not be doing first because that's logical and I don't vibe with that. So there are three parts to this story, and the first part will involve kind of having this box be the main thing that you see. But I want to then go transition from this box and the thing, and I will explain what this is a bit later on in the video. Mainly because it's the thing that I don't know how to get to work properly, and I'm procrastinating actually getting it done. So we're going to start with getting the nice lovely main set done. That's going to be the main part of the story, so then I can be like, okay, we've got time to mess around with the other stuff. But I think to do that, I'm logistically going to have to move these back so that you don't see them at the start and have this in. And the way that the theatre is designed is it's slightly bigger at the back. I don't know if you can see, but like these they fit on the edge up here, they hang. But at the back, they just drop straight down because they don't line up at the top, which is fun, which is good because I've got ones for different sizes and stuff. But I just want to double check that this box fits in, not directly at the back, but like the middle a bit, because it's made to go right at the back. Just, okay. Cool. So the idea is I'll be doing the demo, I'll be standing up, I'll do this thing, I need this part goes in front, so many parts, 3 minutes, I don't know how I'm going to do it in 3 minutes. So this will sit here at the top, I'll have some stuff hanging down here, and then I'll be blah, 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 I'll do the talk, and then they go into the rock pool. So all I've got to do is do this, and then they go into the rock pool. Couple of seconds, I can do that, that's fine, that works, right? Perfect, that's gonna work great. So now I know that that works. You've come along on the journey of discovery with me. I'm going to paint this set in this position. So this is going to be, if you pull this out, you'll see that this is just, there's like emptiness at the back. So this is the backdrop, which I'm going to paint like a rock pool. Then we've got this middle bit here, you know, this can sit here or back here, depending on exactly where I want it and how much room I have for the puppet and kind of manoeuvring in here. And so this is going to be, hopefully, is what I'm thinking, is like rocks, like part of the, like there'll be a rock pool bit at the background, this will be like some rocks in the middle, there'll be a couple of key creatures on it. I really want to try and work out, because I did a starfish last year, if I can like work out how to make one of those pull, like I could make it a little, originally I was going to do the starfish on like a glove and make my hand the starfish and have like a rock and do this, but in 3 minutes I don't have time to put on a glove and take it off, so I'm going to make like a paper, hopefully like a paper slider, so I can have a starfish, and as I'm talking about the rock pool, like sneakily be moving the starfish as well, so it'll look like it's moving. So that's what I want to design here, and then right at the front on this one I want some like sea life and kind of seaweed. I've just noticed though that the front of this is like quite a bit lower. So we lose a bit of the stage. Which so I'm gonna have a play and see how that's gonna look, because it might not matter that I've dropped it down a bit, but I'll have a play with the video and stuff. But I want this to be like some seaweed in the background to make everything kind of feel like you're in it, sort of thing. And I really want this to be watercolours. So the watercolour paintings, that's been my go-tos from the start. It's my comfort zone. It's what I massively enjoy, and I haven't done it in a while because I've been doing lots of other different types of art. And I really just like the idea that this set is going to be like you've just dropped into a beautiful artistic celebration of a rocky shore, of a rock pool. Like, I don't want it to be too realistic. I want it to be realistic enough that you like know where you are, but I just want it to be art and celebration and joy, and not worry so much about it being like realistic or that sort of stuff. So for me, that joy, that artiness is to have like watercolour with outline of black pen. But I'm going to get on my iPad first, that's the first stage, and we're going to sketch out, we're going to design this. I'm really excited to see how it comes out like and have a play around, because I've got the idea in my head, but the creative journey changes things, which is exciting, and so I'm going to lean into that. And we're going to get this done first. And then we will play around with the first act and get the box working and the puppeted kind of props. It's kind of an art set and a puppet at the same time, which will transition lovely into the third video if you follow along, which will be actually making the clay puppets, which I'm very excited for. Not made it a difficult choice of that creature to do the clay puppet whatsoever. Not dreading how many hours that's going to take. It's not dread, it's just daunting. It's daunt. Can you be daunt instead of dread? Just daunt. It's going to take a while. I'm so excited though. Okay, let's get on the iPad and see what this beautiful set is going to look like. I told you I'm excited. A little bit sad. Just a little bit sad.
So I took a picture of the theatre and just started out by blocking out each of the sort of layers of the sets so that I knew the space that I would be drawing on all of them. And then I went to the background and started colouring it in with like some sea colour, because I thought that I knew that there was going to be sea. It's going to be underwater. Started with the simplest thing. And then I started to sketch about to try and work out how much of like other stuff in that sea am I going to see in that backdrop? Am I going to see sand or rocks and different species, or am I going to keep it sort of blue? And I didn't really know. So I jumped forward to start on the sort of foreground set, and I really wanted it to feel like, you know, you were in the seaweed. So I made this like giant seaweed, which is fucus vesiculosis, which is bladderwrack, and I'll talk a bit more about that later on. And then moved to the midground one, added some rocks, and started to play around by adding lots of different species to that. Honestly, I'm winging this, unsurprisingly, but I'd be really interested to know, like, if anyone watching has ever done anything on set design. Like, I am just such an admirer, someone who has just, like, looked up YouTube videos and looked in books and just tried to, like, soak up some information just because I find it really interesting. But I'm really intrigued. If anyone knows how people actually design sets or how you do it, I'm sure it's probably not just done by fiddling around in Procreate, but I really, really enjoyed sort of seeing it come together, adding the lots of different layers, like the bright green gutweed is what it's called, which doesn't sound that amazing, but it looks great, and working out maybe where I wanted to put the starfish and all of these different things, and then I went back into the background and decided that it did need some like more depth. I wanted it to feel a bit more like a rock pool, because what I was trying to debate as well is that if it's a rock pool, I wanted it to feel sort of more claustrophobic than if it was like in an open sea. And also it's really difficult with the light, because I don't know, like I don't really understand, and I've painted underwater stuff for years, but like the light is so very confusing to my brain. Like, does it get darker or lighter the further away it goes, and it gets lighter at the top? And it's just one of those things where I seem to just wing it until it looks about right-ish. And so I wanted there to be some more rock in the background for it to feel a bit more claustrophobic, but I loved that bright blueness of the background, because I was looking through a lot of the pictures of like underwater sea life and stuff that I've taken. Really, it's very rare that you get this like bright blue water in the background, like it's clear, and then you'll just see either like it fade into darkness, I think, or low visibility if it gets like murky, or you'll see the background of the rock pool, which is all seaweeds and things. But I thought in my head, I go rock pooling all the time, like literally hundreds and hundreds of times. I've spent thousands of hours rock pooling, and honestly, if I would know that was a rock pool underwater, like I'd be able to see the thing around it. But actually, if you've not been rock pooling a lot before, what I wanted the audience to immediately be is like, we're in the sea. Like, we're underwater, we're in the sea, that's where we are. And I think that keeping like a bright blue, joyous sort of colour in that sense of like, it's underwater, it's a celebration of that, and immediately the audience doesn't have to think like, oh, what am I seeing? Is that like a wall of lots of different weird species? Like, I didn't want it to distract that way. And so that was sort of one of the ones where I was like, hey, this is the joy of art, is being able to be like, hey, this is what the audience is going to enjoy the most, so that's what I'm going to put in there. It doesn't need to be this sort of like photorealistic accurate thing. So that's sort of where I ended up with all of my different plans. And then we jumped right in with painting the bladder rack. It feels like so long since I've done a classic watercolour. I love it. I love watercolours. I know that some people don't like them because they seem somewhat unforgiving, because once you put a watercolour down, there's not much you can do other than add like a load of water, which makes the page go wibbly a lot of the time to sort of get the paint back off. But I find that because you can just keep layering and layering, and it just works so well for like how I art and how I see colour and everything. Because like, you'll put like a layer down and then I'll be like, that's the colour it is, right? And then 2 seconds later I'll look back at it again and be like, that's not the colour, and I can add more. And just the layers and layers that you get with that, and how gorgeous you can get something to look, I just love and enjoy so much. And of course it had to be bladder rack that goes at the front of the theatre. Now, for those of you who are watching this in the UK, bladder rack here is like the main seaweed. It's awesome, it's everywhere, and it's really cool in my opinion. And it's called bladder rack. I really like it. It's very simple because it's got these like bladders on. So the yellow circles that are in the painting now are the bladders. And bladder rack has these bladders because it's really good for photosynthesis and just general like exchange of the, I'm gonna go chemicals, but like the nutrients in and out of the water that the seaweed needs. It needs its surface area to be exposed to that. It needs to not be when the tide goes out, it's all on the shore, it's all like bunched together, laying on top of each other. That's not ideal all the time because the underside is going to be out of the sun, and there's going to be lots of seaweed covering each other. So when the tide is in, when it's in the water, these bladders are filled with air and it floats it up, and it means that all the bits of the seaweed can get light and that transfer of nutrients sort of across the surface way more easily than if it was sort of all together. And lots of different seaweeds need that, like all seaweeds sort of need that, but they do it in different ways. Like reds are often really intricate and really like fiddly is the wrong term maybe, but like that sort of like teeny weeny, lots of lovely gorgeous shapes and just really thin and delicate and lots of these different things. And a lot of the time that is because it just has so much surface area then to get all of that sunlight in as well. And so just because bladderwrack is so common, it is like the go-to. It had to be the seaweed right at the front that everything is sort of crawling around. And I also love that it's home to so many different species. It's really important. Like species live in and around and under it. You know, when it's down, it can help keep creatures shaded when the tide goes out. If you live in it, it's a bit slimy, it's colder than if it was out in air, so you find lots of animals sort of nestled in the seaweed when the tide goes out, just to be like, hey, I can survive here a lot better. You have these snails called flat top shells, which mimic the bladders in bladderwrack. Like they're really difficult to tell. They even are like bright yellow or orange a lot of the time, and they like curl up on the bladderwrack and just look like those bladders to sort of protect themselves against being eaten. I really thought I should sneak one of the shells in, and in the end I decided not to, just because I didn't know if it would distract. I think in hindsight I regret that. I wish I had like a little snail at the front hidden in as a talking point. Maybe if the seaweed in the future needs to be redone, that is definitely something I will include again. It was then time to crack the knife out and cut all this out, which was somewhat time consuming, but the knife was the only way to do it. It was so much better than if I tried to do it with scissors or anything. So cutting mat, knife, be nice and safe, but that is the only way to go because this was so swirly and whirly and lots of intricate bits to it that it just needed that. So I popped them in the theatre. Oh my god, I'm so excited. This is looking so good already. But for those of you who know what I like to do whenever I do watercolours, I always outline everything in black pen and add shading with black pen. It is like, I see these watercolours, they just look naked. I just need to like outline everything in black and add the sort of shading in, and I've just loved this style of sort of watercolour and pen and ink for so long. I just love that this is getting put into the theatre, but I definitely had to cut them out and make sure it fitted first because this is time consuming. In fact, the whole theatre process, to be fair, was time consuming, but what a joy to spend your time doing this. It was so much fun. And I'm just so excited with how they sort of came out, and particularly because bladderwrack has the bladders, that 3D-ness. I really think with the pen and ink you can like really push and get that to sort of pop out of the page even more, and because that's the first thing you're going to see, it's like, whoa, oh, I'm so pleased. And you can just see the difference that outlining makes from before and after. I think it's like night and day. I love seeing the difference of that. And I'd really struggle to do watercolours without that outline. Like, I think it just makes everything pop so well. So with both of them eventually done, it was time for just chucking it in the theatre really quick before moving on to the next part of our set design.
So we've done the seaweed. And I'm really happy with how it's come out. I need to still attach it to like the top bit, which I'll work out when I get all the sets together. But I just love that this is my like classic style. This is like Marine Mumbles watercolour. This is me watercolour. And I just feel like it's such a celebration of that. It's just like, oh, I had so much fun doing it. Let's put it back over there nice and safe. So now the next bit I need to do is the backdrop. Now the backdrop, I'm not going to lie everyone, is the bit that I'm most self-conscious of. I feel like when there's lots of other stuff that I'm trying to do like the puppets or things like that I haven't done before, like I'm less self-conscious because it's like, oh, it's the first attempt in art, doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm never very good at backgrounds. Like if you have a look at all these lovely paintings on the back of the wall, there's only one or two that is a sort of background one. And it's something that I've been trying to tackle in my own like painting. So off the side I've been painting, which I'm not going to share. Like it's been really enjoyable because I've had like this like art project that I've been doing to try and practice my painting with the thing of like, it's just for me, I'm not going to share it online. I've been painting like movie scenes. I'm practicing just painting backgrounds and things. So maybe, hopefully that will feed into it a bit more. But this is the one that I'm like, oh, I don't know how this is going to look. But it is just going to be at the back. It's not going to draw too much attention-ish. And so I'm just going to give it my best shot. So I'm going to get a nice big, I think it's like A3, A2, bit of watercolour paper. And we're just going to create a watercolour background. And I don't want it to be this like amazing, like fully detailed thing. I need it to sit in the background. I need it to be like help you feel immersed, but not pull away from the other bit. So we're going to do that, and then we'll work on the mid ground bit, but mainly because that's going to require some crafting and an idea that I've got. And I'm also, spoiler alert, you'll see the progress in the next one of the multiple timelines that are overlapping of me doing things. So I'm also working on the puppet that's going to be in the next video. And so while that dries, I'm jumping between the two, and I can't have a puppet painting and having to craft something like that. Is just, brain is not there. So working on the background for now. Wish me luck, fingers crossed. I hope it comes out okay. I have just recorded, because I'm recording on my phone, an entire chatting to you bit, and it was on a selfie for some reason, and I filmed the wall and not my face. It's fine. It's fine. We're going to go again. We're going to go again. We're not in a rush for time. It doesn't matter. Okay, so what was I saying? Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Okay. Great. Do you know why this is extra great? Is because I just spent 5 minutes having a go at this because I'm not very happy with it. We're not having a go, but like ranting about it. So let's just do the spark note, shall we? Let's not pile on again. Let's not repeat. I don't need to like take two of my own slander of myself. This is the backdrop. I'm not amazingly pleased with it, but it's just that I'm not madly in love with it, which is fine because I'm madly in love with the theatre. I am madly in love with the other things like the puppets that are involved. I don't have to love everything. So the main reason that I don't particularly love it is, I suppose, the composition. There's not that dynamic. It doesn't look like, I don't know, it just looks a bit like there's rocky shore with lots of the same sort of like circle shape with just different bits of seaweed in, scattered around in a somewhat aesthetically pleasing placement. But also with this, I'm not outlining it because I don't want people to focus on it too much. Not because I don't like it, but because it is the background. It is mainly going to get covered up by lots of different things, by the mid and the kind of foreground stuff. And that's why I shouldn't beat myself up about the depth so much, because we've got stuff like this gorgeous bit of seaweed, which is like going to sit in front of it. And I'm just very excited to see it all together. So I don't hate it enough to not include it, so it's going to go in, but it is what it is. There's, I can improve on it as we go.
So, moved on to the mid-ground. Much more comfortable here. We're doing a much sort of closer up rock pooling bit. So I was like, let's just do this and forget about the background for a bit. So to do this, I put, what should I call this? I suppose these are like set staging bits. There you go. Nice catchy title there. I put that on the paper and drew around it so I knew what bit I'd have to sort of cover up with the sets in the front. And then got about sort of sketching out a shape of rocks and different species that I wanted to include in there. So the point of this mid-ground is to be the sort of grounding point for the puppet that I'm making. And editing Elizabeth here has gone back and I've had to cut out so much because I got so confused between what you did and didn't know at this stage. And I am keeping what the puppet is a secret, but please chuck in the comments below, like, if you have a guess for what it is. Because the puppet, I think the only thing I should have kept in there about what this is that what I've said is that it is a ridiculous thing to, for the first time ever, make a clay puppet to pick this species. To me, if someone said that to me, two species would jump into my mind, and it's not as bad as the worst one to do out of clay would pop into my head. But other than that, it was such a tricky thing. And so the point of this mid-ground was to sort of be around the same size as the puppet, to be what the puppet would usually be going through. I'm not even trying to say the action of the animal. I am so unbelievably excited. I think the puppet might be the thing I'm like, other than the front of the theatre, like, I am most excited for you to see the next video with the puppet in. And so I just went and put in a load of species that some of them I like wanted to include in the front of the theatre but didn't really work well for that, so they got put into the set. Some of them I just repeated because, I love them, but also I wanted species that brought the colour, a bit of diversity to all the different types of animals you'd find on the rocky shore. Like we've got some seaweed, we've got like gutweed, which will be green, we've got Chondrus crispus, which is Irish moss, which is this gorgeous red seaweed that actually iridesces blue. I could never get over it. I've seen it hundreds of times and I still stare at it. There's like beautiful blue galaxies almost at the end of the fronds of the seaweed, and any chance I get, I try and put them in and paint them. They're actually on the front of the theatre, painted in blue, but it's not really the same reaction as seeing it painted with the gorgeous like red to purple colour that it is. Sea slugs, and I was leaving a space for the starfish, which I knew that I was going to put on and cut out. Barnacles, of course, have to have barnacles on there. I think I've got a tube worm in there. Just lots of things that you would classically see on the rocky shore. Nothing too out of place, nothing too spectacular, because as I just wanted the sets to be like amazing, but not distracting too much, with the focus being on the main puppet. But can you notice what's missing from the species that's included, what has not been drawn in. Might give you some hints as to what the puppet is going to be. Oh my goodness, I cannot wait for you to see it. Honestly, at this point, the amount of times I have drawn starfish, I can draw them without reference and just draw them from from my own brain. I love starfish. I think they're awesome. They're also like a really nice drawing challenge. They've got such a nice texture to them, which actually comes with their anatomy. So they're echinoderms, which means I should have really Googled this before I started talking. Like spiny skin is what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go look that up right now. One web search later. Oh my god, I was right, everyone. Well, it just means spiny skin. And it's really cool because like urchins are also echinoderms, and they have very, very spiny skins. Very, very spiky. Are not included in the set of this because it would be so distracting because they're so awesome and they're so like, what is that? But I don't think that starfish look like they have spines on their skin a lot of the time, but they do if you see them up close. They have lots of little cones. If you watch the video where I became a human starfish, I made like lots and lots and lots and lots of felt cones to kind of go on the back with them. And so painting that is always really fun because you've got the challenge of sort of bringing spines that are not super spiny to life, that sort of harder texture, versus the millions and millions, it's probably an over-exaggeration, but at least the hundreds to, if not thousands, of tube feet, which look like tiny little plungers on the bottom side of them. And they have lots of reds and oranges and yellows and whites, and there's lots of shadow to them, and they just have a really good shape. I really like drawing them. I really, really do. Though I am realising that I'm drawing them a lot. And so I'm like, oh, actually, I think I've got to the point where I might need to, I've become an expert in starfish drawing and I might need to give them just a little bit of a break so that I can go and draw some other things. But I don't know, I'll probably find myself drawing a starfish again. There's nothing wrong with just loving drawing starfish. I think they are awesome. Then I wanted to go in and outline the species in pen and the sort of sets, and compared to maybe the amount of detail that goes into the bladderwrack at the front of the set, there wasn't as much detail, sort of losing the detail as you go back to help with that sense of depth. I also think I used smaller pen sizes, so it's like a thicker pen at the front than it is sort of going back, which sort of fits because the drawings of the species are smaller. But I really do, and I keep saying this a lot, I really did want this set to feel like you'd almost jumped into like a Mary Poppins thing, like you had jumped into this beautiful artistic world. And so the puppet itself, when we get there, very much has that vibe. And so the sets are it was quite good doing them side by side in this, and you'll see in a second, this ever growing and confusing timeline. But actually doing them side by side meant that I could see how the puppet was turning out, and honestly it was so cool that I had to make sure that the sets were as bold and brilliant and vibrant as the puppet. So actually having the pen, I think, just punched everything up, made it pop even more. And I just knew that the puppet was going to look really cool fitting into that space. So what are we going to do now? So this is going to go on. But what I need to do now is work out how to attach it. So this is going to go on this, which is the backboard. This slots into the back of the theatre, and this will go right at the back like this. So I've obviously put a lot of effort into making this theatre and this set, but it's not just going to be used once, I hope. It's going to be used lots of times, and so I want the backdrop and the sets to be interchangeable. So I brought lots of little teeny weeny little Velcro dots. And I've got blue tack if it all goes wrong, because I can't work out how to I'm going to have to put the Velcro on the back and the Velcro on the sets and make sure that when they Velcro up together they line up specifically. And I know that that is what maths and measuring and rulers and all those things are for, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I literally, despite having a PhD in civil engineering, I used to have people come and this one technician was so lovely while I was at Swansea, and he used to get a whiteboard and draw on the table for me because I just couldn't see it. I couldn't grasp the measurements. I couldn't, like, I kept measuring stuff out, and he was like, I'm just going to draw it at the real proportion out on the table right now for you, so you can see what it is, and then you can see roughly what you're doing, and we can measure from that. It was very lovely. It might not match up, and so we might just go to blue tack, but I don't want it to fall off like mid set change on that, so I feel like this would just be like a more long-term fix to try and go with. So we're going to do that. We're going to do the mid-ground when that's done. That's just like we're in the stages of just kind of getting that finished off and getting that dry. Going to also Velcro that on to this. This is what the mid-ground is going to go on. And what I was going to do is I was going to put, this was made originally for the foreground, because I was thinking in my head that like I could put maybe some stuff at the front. Let's do this. Like I could put some stuff, like, do you know what I mean? Like there's, like I could maybe, originally this was going to be like the place that I could put like a curtain or something, like something like that. But you can kind of see that like this drops down much lower than this one. It was just blocking off the stage too much. I wanted to keep it like as big and open as possible, so you could see all the lovely sea stuff in the background that I don't completely hate. And so what I'm going to do, instead with these is I've got like mounted, I don't remember what they were called when I bought them, like mounted boards, like stuff you'd mount boards on to display art, I imagine. So I'm just going to cut off a couple of slices of them, maybe glue it together and just make a bar that goes across the top, similar to that with the wood. I just don't, I haven't got access to wood or a saw, and I don't really need to for just hanging a bit of seaweed. And work out how to fix that onto the front. And then the most exciting bit is that we will finally get to see the background, the midground and the foreground all together. Like I haven't really even looked at the background or the midground like in the theatre yet. And so we're going to put it all together and actually see what it looks like for the theatre and the set to be there. That's so exciting. And then we have a whole other set to make, because in the 3-minute talk I've definitely included a set change. And this is the bit that I've been teasing. This is the bit that like I haven't said exactly what I'm going to try and do. I don't know if it's that exciting, but it's really exciting to me. I feel like it's going to look cool as. And so that's the next challenge that we've got to get done today, for sure, because otherwise I haven't got time. So let's get on.
Oh my goodness. As soon as I switched off the camera, after all of that going on about I'm so nervous about working out the measurements, and I was just thinking I'm going to go through so much watercolor paper testing this out and getting it wrong, I immediately, as soon as I turned off the camera, I was like, lightning bolt, perfect idea. I was like, this is foolproof, this is so going to work. It's so much easier than what I was thinking about making sure it was exact measurements. So once I had gotten I got the Velcro, and there's 2 sides to the Velcro, like the, I don't know, what's it called, hook and loop, the hook side and the loop side, and I stuck down one type of the Velcro onto the back. And then what I did was, because it has these little like sticky things at the back anyway, you just sort of peel them off and they're sticky, is that I stuck on the other side. So if I stuck down the hooks, I flipped and put the loop on top, and immediately just stuck the bit of Velcro to it. And so that then when I went and pressed down the paper, the loop side, the other side that hadn't been attached to like the black back of the staging, just stuck to the paper. And I was like, this is perfect. This means that every set that I make, every backdrop, I just have to put on new loops and re-stick them with that, and it can stay the same. It was perfect. It worked so well. I cannot recommend this enough. Just a little tip if it's ever useful for you. I am very happy my brain came up with that idea, which is probably what, I mean, there's probably people watching this that was like, just do this. I knew about it anyway, but I discovered that on my own, so a little pat on the back for me.
We have the sort of mid-ground stuff, which is going to go onto the frame. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully that works. I haven't actually had a look at it properly. Oh, just covers so that you can't see the black. I left that tight. That's fine.
But we also have this piece, which I've been painting. And the only bit that I need to finish off on these is I do need to ink and mark this. And I also have like white pens, which I've ordered. They're on the way. They should arrive today. Just because, of course, all of my white pens had like run out. And I just want a little few detailed highlights that are like nice and poppy. And especially for the starfish, which has a lot of like white dots and white bits in it. Like I just find it easier, instead of like trying to leave space on the paper, which isn't even that bright of a white, then having like a white gel pen afterwards to like go and dot in stuff is awesome. But I've left this off rather than draw the starfish on, because last year at Big, I was a giant starfish, and I feel like this has become a sort of thing that I cringe about it, talking about it so much, mainly because I feel like it's just become a thing. Like I'm like, oh yeah, any chance I can mention the starfish, I do. I don't mean to do that. It's just that it was a really cool, fun demo, and it comes into conversation quite a bit because when you roll into the lecture theatre at a big conference as a starfish, it tends to get talked about. But I did want to, like, I love the bits that in theatre there's like little Easter eggs and stories and all these bits that are put in, and like I am the sort of person that goes to like a musical theatre show and then just like, great, I get 3 months of like deep diving into the programmes and all of the little details. So I want to, like, I don't know, I just want to throw in a starfish thing here, and I want there to be something that moves. There's nothing really in this, and I thought about, you know, you could have swaying seaweed, and I was like, let's not overcomplicate things. But what I could do is I could have a starfish which moves like, which is the point of the demo last year, was to be like, this is how starfish sort of moves as I roll in. So I'm going to try and cut and hopefully not ruin what I think is quite a cool bit of artwork. You know, it feels very classic me. I don't think my style of this has changed from a video like years and years ago I did where I painted a big rock pool like every day as an advent calendar. It's pretty much the same. It's been like 5 years. But if we cut a little slider here, I should be able to set a tab and pull it, is what I'm thinking. And although I'll have to paint the sort of behind this bit underneath, like also rock colour, so you will see it slightly change because it won't be the same bit of rock. I feel like it'll be a fun, nice little moment where when I introduce the character coming into the rock pool, the crab, and saying, oh, there's lots of sea life in there, that I can like pull the tab and it'd be like, oh, you know, it's not just the puppet that's moving, like it just gives that little sense of life in the art. So I've never done this before, and I've seen all these like fancy craft videos where they get the little squidgy tabs. Apparently I can buy every other art supply for this, but I didn't buy the squidgy tabs. I don't know why. So what I've got instead is I can just cut little squares out, and I've got some Pritt sticks, which I haven't used since like in ages. I feel like it's such like a classic school art supply. And I've got some Pritt sticks, and I can like cut the squares and stick them on top of each other, and that will be the squidgy thing, right? More effort, more time. Hey ho.
Okay, we're entering the part of the video where I got in my YouTube algorithm lots of card making videos started to appear because I was searching about how to do this. I knew I wanted to put in a sliding, moving starfish, and there's lots of like different ways I suppose that you could have done it, but I was envisioning I needed something simple. That was the main bit. And I needed something that was hidden. So something that looked like as the starfish moved, that there was still rock underneath it because it was the starfish moving. And so I thought there must be some sort of like card that has like a slider or something. And there were loads of examples of that. So really grateful to all those videos. And how I ended up doing it was nervously cutting a strip out of the front of the set, just a little strip, and then cutting some cardboard into squares that was just, and this is sort of key to it not completely falling out either, just a bit less wide, which you might describe as thinner, but let's go with less wide than that strip. So the reason that the pieces of paper that were cut just a bit thinner is important is because I found that if I sort of pulled it and it was on a thinner bit of paper, then the starfish would wobble around a lot more and it would look
a lot less good, but also there was a risk that mid-performance the starfish would sort of like fall out of the thing that I was just about to build. And what I built from this is I cut another much longer strip which I could reach from the side of the theatre, so it came all the way from the sort of slot that I cut all the way past that and sort of stuck out the side of the theatre so that I could go and grab it. And all the wings, it would be at the wings of the theatre. Let's get theatrical with this. A piece of paper that went all the way from the slots to the wings of my miniature theatre, and I painted that in a colour like the rock, and then I cut another strip underneath that and also painted that like a rock. It didn't need to be like as long as the like long strip to reach from the wings, but it needed to cover the initial sort of slot that I cut. And then I cut another couple of little bits of paper and stuck them together, like on the back of the mid ground set bit of watercolour paper, just to give it a bit of room. So I then was able to sort of feed through the longer strip that reached into the wings, stuck on a couple of bits of paper that were just about thinner than the slot, and stuck the starfish on top of them. So they were hidden, but as I then pulled the starfish on that bit of paper, which was then now essentially sort of cut into a sort of paper pocket that looked like rock, it meant that as I pulled it, it looked like I was moving the starfish and I was moving rock with it, and in the background it revealed rock. Now you can still see that there is a slot there, but it looks really cool and kind of works, and I don't mind drawing attention to the fact that it is an art sort of piece. I wanted to celebrate the art with the theatre as well as celebrating the sea life. So actually having that slot there and just sort of like bringing attention to that, it was made out of paper, it's made out of like watercolor drawings and all that sort of stuff together. I didn't mind at all, and I just think it worked really well to have this little mini starfish walking across the set. Then next up, we needed to do a few touches to the front bladderwrack bit of seaweed. We're finally going to finish that off. So I have this mount board, which is like a thicker bit of card, and I cut strips out of that. I cut a couple of strips and sort of stuck them together just to give it a bit more stability and strength, and cut like a few sort of like extra bits on the end to sort of replicate the bit where it's going to sit on the theatre, just give that a bit more stability. I noticed that the seaweed, I hadn't really painted right down to the bottom because I didn't know how, once the seaweed was stuck onto this sort of mount for it, I didn't know how low down it was going to sit, and I didn't really like then that the seaweed just disappeared into nothingness, so I went and painted a couple of rocks just to put at the bottom. If I was going to do it again, maybe I'd do that. They have like holdfasts, which are the roots of a kelp. That wasn't sort of included in it, but I think in future, I could have done that, get even more marine biology. But at this point, it's not really what's mattering, is it? So I put the rocks in the front. I think that really helped, and it meant that I could cut the bottom of the rocks and it looked less abrasive, because a rock can be any size. And so I cut the rocks to the point at which I could drag it from the back of the theatre to the front and make sure it didn't catch. And it sort of hung really nicely with that. Oh my goodness.
Okay, I am just about in shock. But I don't really want you to focus on this. I want you to focus on the gorgeousness of this. This is future me. So when you see me making all this stuff, it just got so like hectic. There was lots of stuff sort of going on, and I realised there were bits that I forgot to film, including like the final reveal, because I thought I'd share it on the actual day. Forgot to do that. So let's just celebrate this now. Wow, I can't. This set combination is incredible. I know I didn't like the back set very much, but I think it works super well. You're not massively focused on it. I love that you've got the blue for the sea in the background. We could have maybe had a bit more, but like, I think it's so cool. I think the starfish moving is just the best. It works really well, and then you've got this seaweed that just really sort of brings it to life. This combination is incredible. I then pulled these back so they start the actual thing way back here, because there is another piece that I want to show you, and it is the thing that I've sort of been keeping hidden, and I actually can't find the footage of me drawing it, so I'm just going to explain it all here. It is this piece here, which just looks like blue ocean, and this slots in here. Just about fits. And so the show, I haven't got miniature curtains, which is on my to-do list for future. Stick around to the end of the series to see what's next. But this box fits in here. Now this is what I said to my dad. I had this extra idea about this particular show and something I wanted to do, and I was like, I'm gonna go and maybe get like a Connex or something that I wanted in my head. I was like, something that rotated and that. And my dad had these like metal poles, and they're just, oh, they're not even metal, they're wood, had these like metal dowels, and he made a box, like a box frame, put these metal dowels in with little tiny like screws, and put them on each end. And what I've done is I painted a very long piece of paper in this sort of watercolory ocean theme, and wound it up, stuck it to one of the ends with the Velcro so I can swap out different sets with this, a bit like the other sets. Wound it up. Which side is it round? It's round this side. And so I can talk about something, again, stick for the puppets for the next one, moving in the ocean, and as I twist this, we have a moving backdrop. What? It doesn't move very much, and I will say it probably needs a bit of love and care after it being used a few times now. Sneak tidbit of information there, but I love this. I love it so much. I think I've got a slightly too thick a bit of paper. I think even thinner would be even better, because then you really are limited by how much you can make by just how much it winds around. But a bit of thinner material, a bit of thinner paper, this would work so streamlined and so smooth. And I was inspired, it's like in the Barbie scene with the old, which is like an ode to the old Hollywood moving backdrops, which is what I wanted. Like, this whole idea is a celebration of like theatres and film and arts and sharing stories, and that was just such an iconic thing used in like old films, on theatre stages, and all of these different things that I really wanted to include it, and I thought it worked so well in terms of like the idea of this ocean. And then I like can reveal the other stuff, but I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna end it on this because I need to introduce you to the puppets, to the story, because I keep wanting to tell you and I keep having to leave it out. So no more of this teasing. Next video with the theatre will be the puppets and the sort of story, and then you'll see the finished show. Oh my goodness. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. What are you thinking of the theatre so far? I love it so much. It's my favourite thing. I can't get over it. Like, look! See you in the next video when we get onto the puppets and share a bit more about the story that I want to tell. Thank you all for watching, and again, you can support me on Patreon. Links down below. It helps put me at the channel and the stories that I want to tell. But thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone.